This is part 2, episode 100. Nan Chiochio had been extremely frustrated and irritable over the past few days. She had been in Shrek City for more than half a month, and news traveled continuously from various sources. She had become very unstable and anxious ever since she heard that her mother and the Earth Dragon Sect's team members, who had participated in the tournament, didn't return to their sect. She didn't think too much into it when they first departed the Sun Moon Empire, because she had faith in her mother's abilities. Her family's inherited powers of annihilation meant her mother should be able to escape even if she had to fight against someone stronger than she was. However, things didn't turn out the way she had hoped. Her mother was the sect leader, but she hadn't returned to the sect. Fortunately, the Earth Dragon sect was still being guarded by several of its senior members, and the sect had managed to avoid any problems for now. But Nan Chiochio and her mother had depended on each other ever since she was a child. Nan Shueishui was very strict with her, but their relationship was intimate, and their love for each other ran deep. If the Tang sect's other members hadn't successfully persuaded her, she would have succumbed to her impatience and rushed back to the Sun Moon Empire to search for her mother. Nan Chiochio was a little unruly, but she was very smart. She knew very well that the news that came from Shrek Academy in Shrek City would be a lot more accurate than if she had been back at her own sect, and she would also receive news a lot faster here than elsewhere. Furthermore, the Tang sect's members told her unambiguously that they would help her save her mother once they received definite and reliable intel. At this moment, Nan Chiochio was pacing outside the Tang sect's main gate. She was waiting for something. "What are you doing, Chiochio? You didn't eat much for lunch." A voice rang out, and Nan Chiochio turned around as she saw Gao Delu, who was picking his teeth with a toothpick, walk out from inside the Tang sect's main gate. In contrast to Nan Chiochio, Gao Delu was as proud and pleased as Punch ever since he had arrived at the Tang sect. He was all alone in the world, and had no strings attached anywhere. To him, wherever he was his home. Bei Bei took him to see Xian Ziwen as soon as they arrived back at the Tang sect, and Xian Ziwen tested him a little before he frowned and reluctantly allowed Gao Delu to stay. Gao Delu had only been here for half a month, but he had displayed stunning talent and potential in crafting soul tools over this period of time. He was like an enormous sponge, as he continuously absorbed all kinds of knowledge. The large amounts of rare metals that Hu Hao and the others had stolen from one of the Sun Moon Empire's underground warehouses became the most substantial guarantee for taking the Tang sect's development one step further. There was no need to mention Gao Delu's reaction. Even Xian Ziwen's eyes froze and grew lifeless for 15 minutes when he saw those incredibly precious and exotic rare metals piled up into a small mountain before he recovered his senses. Gao Delu had thrown himself onto the mountain of rare metals, crying and wailing. He was hollering at the top of his voice. In life, I am part of the Tang sect as a human. In death, I am part of the Tang sect as a ghost. Gao Delu was a classic embodiment of greed and avarice, and he would follow anyone that would give him benefits. However, he had a very straightforward personality, and he was simple and honest, and even a little silly at times. This, in addition to his passion for crafting soul tools that was comparable to that of Xian Ziwen, quickly gained him the Tang sect's approval. Nan Chiochio and Gao Delu weren't the only ones who had joined the Tang sect. Mo Xian, who was also from Shrek Academy's inner courtyard, had also joined. Mo Xian was already in the Tang sect when Shrek's 7 monsters had represented the Tang sect for the big tournament. Mo Xian was also incredibly interested in soul tools, and even though he didn't choose to learn how to craft them, he had been working hard at understanding soul tools and learning how to use many different kinds. The Tang sect had entered a stage of sound and steady development. They needed 1 more month, at most, before they could hand over the first batch of Zhuge divine crossbow cannons that the Heavenly Soul Empire and the Star Luo Empire had purchased. 50% of the cannons' costs were paid in golden soul coins, while the rest was paid entirely with rare metals. This was the Tang sect's first bucket of income, next to the financial aid that Shrek Academy had given them. In addition to the enormous amounts of rare metals and stationary soul cannon shells that Hu Hao and the others had taken from the underground warehouse, it was enough to establish a solid foundation for the Tang sect. Nan Chocho glanced at Gao Delu and said, I'm waiting for eldest senior brother. He's having a meeting at the academy. Why aren't you in the underground cave? Gao Delu seemed a little displeased as he said, What underground cave? That's our underground research facility, the Tang sect's Soul Tool Hall. Nan Chocho snapped, It's beneath the ground. What else can it be if not an underground cave? Gao Delu sounded a little exasperated. It's an underground cave if you insist, then. I'm going out to buy some wine. Do you want some? Nan Chocho shook her head and said, No thanks, I'm not going to drink. Mummy taught me that girls cannot drink wine casually, especially with men. It'll be easy for girls to be taken advantage of. Her eyes became a little red when she mentioned her mother. Gao Delu was a little slow regarding human interaction and the ways of the world. But even so, he knew that Nan Chocho hadn't been in a very good mood in the past few days. He hurriedly said, All right, then you can wait for eldest senior brother. I'm going to get going. With that, he walked away as briskly as he could. Chocho, Chocho. A shrill and high-pitched voice came from within the Tang sect's walls right at this moment. Nan Chocho was momentarily stunned before a helpless and exasperated look appeared on her face. Don't drag me in, Sister Gai. Come, quickly. I can't hold on any longer. Yi Gai's worried voice rang out once more. Nan Chocho slapped herself on the forehead as she walked back through the Tang sect's main gate with a helpless look on her face. Smoke and fog permeated the Tang sect's sparring arena at this moment. Two beams of sword light flashed by in an instant. One was black as ink, while the other was a brilliant gold. Clang! The two sword lights clashed as they passed by each other, and Yi Gai stumbled backwards as her angel's wings flickered behind her back. She had a hard time dispelling that forceful impact, and the sharp auras that she had directed from her body into her surroundings were still slicing through the air, and ear-piercing rending and tearing sounds could be heard again and again. Nan Chocho could imagine how powerful her opponent was, because her opponent was strong enough to force a soul emperor, whose martial soul was an angel, into a corner like that. The person standing opposite them had a grave look on his face, his eyes were exceptionally focused, and burned with passion, the sword maniac, Ji Juechen. The person who had gone through the yin-yang love-querying valley with the least dangers, and without any rewards at all, besides Elder Xian, had to be Ji Juechen. He didn't know anything about sentiments and emotions, and he was a sword maniac, so how could he have had any experiences with love? When the yin-yang love-querying valley tested him, it only received one answer: no. There was nothing at all. The yin-yang love-querying valley only had one thing to say to him as his final evaluation: he was a stone. The valley let him go after that, and didn't give him any rewards at all. As for Yi Gai, she came to Shrek City directly after she and Hui Yuhao were separated. She had initially wanted to join Shrek Academy, but the academy wasn't taking students at this time, so she could only wait in the academy for Hui Yuhao and the others to return. However, Hui Yuhao didn't show up, and when Elder Xian and the Tang sect's other members returned, Elder Xian suggested that she temporarily stay with the Tang sect, and so here she was. Yi Gai was proud and arrogant all the way to her bones, and she was still very unconvinced about her defeat to Hui Yuhao back then. Her pride began to show when she arrived at the Tang sect, and naturally, a certain sword maniac was excited by the thrill of the hunt when he discovered that her martial soul was an angel. Birds of a feather flocked together. This saying was as accurate as always. Yi Gai and Nan Chocho had quite similar personalities, and it took but a few days before these two arrogant girls grew close. Yi Gai's martial soul, the angel, was strong, but she was still one class beneath Ji Juechen, who was already a soul sage. This gap was especially obvious, because Yi Gai was not used to Ji Juechen's extreme fighting style at all. Yi Gai had never defeated him one-on-one. Ji Juechen's fighting style had always been giving everything he had in one strike, and the two of them rarely exchanged more than 10 moves in their fights. Yi Gai was exasperated, and so she had dragged Nan Chocho into the fray. Nan Chocho had also received some benefits from the yin-yang love-querying valley. She didn't have a lover, but she was very honest. The valley was conspicuously more tolerant and forgiving towards girls than it was towards guys, and Nan Chocho ultimately gained a reward from her experience, and her soul power was raised a little bit. Nan Chocho was only a 5-ring soul king, but her martial soul's annihilation element wasn't a joke. Nan Chocho teaming up with Yi Gai had a very complementary feel, and Ji Juechen would have an exceptionally hard time trying to defeat them both 1-on-2, unless he unleashed his martial soul true body. This was the reason why Yi Gai couldn't help but call for reinforcements when she faced off against Ji Juechen. She was like a punching bag if she had to fight him by herself. "Come help me, Chocho. I can't deal with him by myself," Yi Gai panted, but she was staring vindictively at Ji Juechen. Ji Juechen didn't continue attacking Yi Gai as he watched Nan Chocho approach. He just quietly waited for her. His personality as a sword maniac meant he always hoped that his opponent would be stronger than he was. If you were weaker than he was, he probably wouldn't consider fighting you at all. Nan Chocho tapped her feet on the ground and drifted over beside Yi Gai. Come. Coincidentally, I feel a need to vent. You'll take the front, Sister Gai. Yi Gai gestured to her to signal that she had no problem with this arrangement, and she took a step forward as she blocked Nan Chocho behind her. Golden light erupted, and her angel's wings rose up once more. Ji Juechen raised the judgment sword in his hands, and his sharp and grave eyes became focused and concentrated once more. Ghastly, silent sword chi surged into the sky, but it condensed and didn't dissipate. If a bird flew through the sky 100 meters above his head, his razor-sharp sword chi would cut it in half. Nan Chocho positioned herself behind Yi Gai, and she pointed into the sky with her right hand. Translucent, crystalline pink dragon scales extended from the tip of her index finger, and these scales began to web down her hand, quickly covering her entire arm. Nan Chocho was also an assault-type soul master, but she was more adept at mid-range and long-range combat. She wasn't very good with close-range combat, and this was the reason she had Yi Gai stand in front of her. With Ji Juechen's strength, the gap in their strengths would be revealed in no time if Nan Chocho faced him directly. She probably couldn't take a single strike from Ji Juechen's sword, but everything was different now that she was behind Yi Gai. Yi Gai raised her right hand at the same time. Brilliant golden sword light instantly emerged from her hand, and her 5th soul ring sparkled at the same time. Holy sword! Yi Gai's first fight against Ji Juechen had ended disastrously almost as soon as it began, because she had attacked with the intention to probe his abilities, while Ji Juechen used his full strength from the get-go. Yi Gai didn't dare to probe his abilities this time. She knew she would pay bitterly if she did. Once her holy sword was unleashed, dazzling golden light covered the entire sparring arena. Yi Gai's flourishing holy aura buffeted her clothes and made her even more elegant and enchanting. She deliberately compressed her holy sword's radiance continuously, making her sword stronger. There were quite a few people spectating this fight. Besides Ji Juechen's close friend Jing Ziyan, Shu Sansha, Jiang Nan Nan, and Xiao Xiao were also here. Swords didn't have eyes. They were afraid problems could arise in this fight, and someone could get hurt. Shu Sansha, who was known as the Eternal Defense, should be able to dissolve any dangers at a crucial moment. Shu Sanshi's mysterious underworld displacement was more than suitable, and even Ji Juechen couldn't break through Shu Sanshi's defenses with a single strike after he had completely evolved his Xuanwu shield, even if he used his full strength. Ji Juechen's eyes were luminous, but his expression was always ice-cold. For him, no matter who his opponent was and what his opponent's abilities were, he would break them with one strike. That was his sword heart. Yi Gai's eyes were still as stern as ever, but they had now become entirely golden. She tapped lightly on the ground with her left foot, and her wings stretched out behind her back. Yi Gai seemed to be defying the pull of gravity, as she gradually floated upwards, and the holy sword in her hands became even brighter than before, as if she were holding a small sun in her hands. Ji Juechen suddenly took a step forward with his left foot, and his sword intent that had just surged into the sky abruptly descended. He hadn't unleashed his sword yet, as his sword intent came first, and sharp sword intent instantly plummeted from the sky and rained down towards Yi Gai. However, a pink ray suddenly burst out from beneath Yi Gai's feet. Without any warning at all, Nan Chocho was making her move. Light of annihilation. That pink light beam seemed translucent and clear, and it stretched across more than 10 meters without dissipating. Ji Juechen suddenly pressed down forcefully with his left foot, and a rich and vigorous aura transformed into grey sword intent that almost seemed material as it erupted outwards. The pink beam clashed against his black sword intent, and was instantly annihilated. However, that black sword intent paused for a moment, and couldn't attach itself to Ji Juechen's judgment sword. Yi Gai was quite proficient at grasping opportunities, and she immediately slashed out with her holy sword. A brilliant golden beam, that resembled a stunning rainbow, that seemed like it was going to slice the entire sparring arena, in half descended from the sky, and went straight for Ji Juechen's head. Ji Juechen finally used his judgment sword, and pressed down with his left foot once more. He leaned forward and supported himself with his toes as he lifted his judgment sword into the sky. Ji Juechen's 7 soul rings sparkled at the same time in that instant. Ji Juechen was different from almost every single other soul master. Soul rings were equivalent to a soul master's life force, and determined how powerful their soul skills were. This meant that soul rings determined how powerful a soul master's abilities were. But for Ji Juechen, his soul rings' effects had become entirely redundant. He didn't care about what soul skills his soul rings gave him, and he didn't even think about what kind of soul rings he had to attach to himself. He was only concerned about his soul rings boosting his physique and his soul power. Ji Juechen's pure sword intent was his own unique invention, and infusing every single ounce of his strength into his sword intent was something that was engraved deep into his bones. Black light soared into the sky as the darkness side of Ji Juechen's judgment sword burst out with black light. Darkness was naturally at a disadvantage against the holy element. However, once this darkness reached a certain level, it would become so powerful that not even the holy element could suppress it. The black light that surged into the sky instantly consumed the golden light that was slashing down from the sky. Golden light exploded and flashed inside all that darkness in the next moment. But the rich and powerful black sword intent was like an evil dragon, as it swallowed every inch of Yi Gai's golden sword light. Yi Gai was unwilling to resign herself to defeat, as her first and second soul rings sparkled at the same time. Holy light illumination and holy praise. Intense golden light emerged from her body once more, and white light flickered at its core. This light didn't just land on her body, it also covered Nan Chocho below her. Nan Chocho pushed forward with her right hand, and a pink layer of light appeared as it transformed into a pink fan-shaped light that expanded outward. Her second and third soul ring lit up at the same time, and she lifted her left hand as pink light cocooned both herself and Yi Gai. Annihilation barrier. Ji Juechen couldn't disregard that pink light no matter how powerful he was. He took another step forward as black sword intent erupted from his body once more, and clashed directly against Nan Chocho's pink fan-shaped light. Ji Juechen slashed down through the air with his judgment sword, and the black sword light that was condensed in the sky sliced down from the sky like a black lightning bolt, going straight for Yi Gai. Yi Gai's eyes were solemn and grave as she raised her holy sword once more. This time, her second soul ring lit up, and her holy sword changed from gold to an incandescent white, as she slashed back at Ji Juechen. This was her angel's second soul skill, Holy Ghost Slash. Boom! Intense explosions caused the entire sparring arena to tremble. Fortunately, the Tang sect's sparring arena was spacious enough, and the two who were fighting deliberately controlled the spread of their attacks. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to ensure that the sparring arena remained undamaged. Yi Gai and Nan Chocho were quite powerful when they teamed up, and even Ji Juechen's sword light was weakened when it touched Nan Chocho's light of annihilation. His sword light was far too dense and concentrated, however, so Nan Chocho had a hard time absorbing her opponent's strength to feed back into her own body through annihilation's effects. However, Ji Juechen's attack was still weakened to quite an extent. Ji Juechen and Yi Gai collided forcefully once more, and Yi Gai was still on the losing end. This time, she was sent plummeting from the sky, though she wasn't hurt, because she had used so many soul skills, and she had Nan Chocho protecting her. In the moment that Ji Juechen's black sword intent touched Nan Chocho's pink light, Nan Chocho placed one of her fists into her other palm. Deafening booms that resembled thunderclaps could be heard in the next instant as large patches of pink light exploded one after another. Chained annihilation explosions. This was a powerful area of effect skill. Ji Juechen could only temporarily defend himself, as his sword intent faced off against Nan Chocho's chained annihilation explosions, and he couldn't continue attacking Yi Gai for now. Furthermore, his sword intent couldn't condense within her chained annihilation explosions like when he was attacking. Part of his sword intent was blown to smithereens, and that peculiar pink light swallowed everything up as it fed everything back into Nan Chocho's body. This was the Ruby Dragon's annihilation element's most powerful attribute. Nan Chocho could use her opponent's strength to replenish herself. If Ji Juechen's sword intent hadn't been powerful enough, she would have absorbed even more. She could weaken her opponent while strengthening herself at the same time, and even some who were stronger than she was could lose to her in the end. Yi Gai managed to catch her breath with Nan Chocho's help as light burst out from her beautiful eyes. How could she be convinced by her loss to Ji Juechen with her arrogant personality? She tapped lightly on the ground with the tip of her foot, and glided forward. This time, every other soul ring's lustres was withdrawn, and only her sixth and final soul ring sparkled brilliantly. Her wings flickered as two illusory wings of light glimmered faintly. Yi Gai resembled a waltzing angel, as she drifted towards Ji Juechen, and her holy sword became a pristine white longsword as her elegant frame became illusory, as she glided outward. It was impossible to lock onto her body. This was Yi Gai's strongest soul skill, angelic dance. This wasn't Nan Chocho's first time teaming up with Yi Gai. Nan Chocho watched Yi Gai unleash her angelic dance, and her last soul ring lit up at the same time. Nan Chocho's black 10,000-year soul ring sparkled, as a pink diamond-shaped crystal glowed dazzlingly on her forehead. A single bright and crisp dragon roar rang out from behind her back, and a pink dragon shadow flickered behind her back. A dash of pink light swiftly caught up to Yi Gai and attached itself to her body, while Nan Chocho's body also became a little illusory. Nan Chocho's fifth soul skill, annihilation body. A body that was formed from the power of annihilation would shimmer into view once this skill was used. This body would be identical to Nan Chocho's own body, and it would even possess part of her spirit. This skill's most formidable trait was that it could enhance Nan Chocho's annihilation element by 300%, and her opponents would have to break through her form of annihilation first if they wanted to hurt her original body. At the same time, her annihilation body would form the foundation for Nan Chocho to use other powerful soul skills when she became stronger in the future. Ji Juechen used his sword and swiped a Z through the air as he faced Yi Gai's angelic dance, and black sword light covered an enormous area. However, Yi Gai didn't have to defend herself as the form of annihilation that was attached to her body rushed forward. Pink light flickered incessantly, and Ji Juechen's sword light was actually decimated just like that when it touched Nan Chocho's form of annihilation. Nan Chocho couldn't absorb her opponent's strength to feed herself through her powers of annihilation when she was using annihilation body. However, her powers of annihilation would also be raised to their highest possible level, and even Ji Juechen's coagulated sword light was dispelled. Even though Nan Chocho's annihilation body became a little more illusory after that collision, the chance that this collision had created for Yi Gai was enough. Yi Gai's angelic dance closed in on Ji Juechen, and her white longsword shone with brilliant light as countless streaks of sword light rained down on Ji Juechen's body. Ji Juechen had just attacked with his sword before this, and he was currently in a state when his strength was weakest. However, his expression didn't change at all even though he facing such a disadvantageous situation, and he pulled his judgment sword back lightly as he flipped the sword around in his hands. The sword's black surface suddenly became white, and its darkness was instantly converted into light. When Yi Gai's holy aura clashed against the body of Ji Juechen's sword, which was now filled with an aura of light, the sword's body erupted with dazzling light. Ji Juechen raised his sword horizontally before his body, and he exclaimed vigorously as a bitingly sharp and cold sword intent suddenly emerged from his body. Black sword intent became white, and darkness became light. Everything happened very naturally. Yigai's angelic dance clashed against his sword intent just like that, and Yigai had no chance to evade Ji Juechen's counterattack at all. Nan Qiuqiu's form of annihilation had been forced away after she dispelled the Z-shaped sword intent, and her annihilation body couldn't rush back in time. The power of annihilation was incredibly strong, and Ji Juechen's sword light, which currently possessed the power of light, instantly became a lot dimmer than before. However, the strength of Nan Qiuqiu's annihilation body was ultimately limited, and she didn't dare to use every ounce of energy in that body, as she could risk damaging her origin if she did so. The pink light transformed into a beam of flowing light and flowed back into her body, while Yigai returned to her side at this moment. Their faces were a little black. They had used their full strength, but they were still unable to obtain any sort of advantage. You guys are no match for me. Go back and work harder. Ji Juechen didn't continue attacking. He withdrew his judgment sword as he turned and walked away. Nan Qiuqiu's pretty face grew even darker than before. Why is he being so condescending? The winner of this fight is still undecided. How does he know we are no match for him? Yigai forced out a bitter smile as she said, forget it. If we are no match for him, then so be it. We are no match for him now, but that doesn't mean we won't be his match in the future. He has shown me mercy before this, and when he converted darkness to light, he borrowed my strength. If he had used his full strength in that attack, I wouldn't have been able to emerge unscathed, and your annihilation body might have been damaged as well. Furthermore, he didn't use his martial soul true body. I didn't expect the gap between us to be so huge. Nan Qiuqiu hugged Yigai across her shoulder and said, don't be so dejected, Sister Gai. He's older than us, and we will surpass him one day. Ji Juechen was still nearby, and suddenly stumbled when he heard her words. Jingxian was following behind him, and couldn't help but laugh at Nan Qiuqiu's remark. Ji Juechen was only a little over 20. Could he really be considered old? However, he was actually the oldest one amongst these people from the Tang sect. You're back, eldest senior brother. Nan Qiuqiu suddenly exclaimed and jumped for joy. She completely disregarded a certain someone's despondence. Bei Bei walked in from outside, but his expression seemed a little grave. He waved to everyone and said, come, let's talk inside. Bei Bei took everyone into the Tang sect's conference hall. Everyone sat down, and besides their subordinates, everyone here formed the Tang sect's core. Nan Qiuqiu couldn't hold herself back anymore, and blurted, how is it, eldest senior brother? Is there news about my mother and the others? Bei Bei nodded and said, we have intel. The good news is that they are all fine and still alive. The bad news is, they are indeed in the Sun Moon Empire's hands. Nan Qiuqiu leapt to her feet, turned and was just about to walk out. Fortunately, Yigai moved quickly and grabbed her in time. Bei Bei frowned slightly and said, don't be rash, Qiuqiu. Let me finish. We have to save your mother, but do you think you can do that and bring everyone back by yourself? Bei Bei's voice became a lot stricter and severe towards the end. Nan Qiuqiu pouted, and tears welled up in her eyes. Nan Qiuqiu and her mother had depended on each other since she was young, and her mother had doted on her back in the Earth Dragon sect. She wouldn't have developed such a prideful and arrogant personality otherwise. Joining the Tang sect and leaving her mother's supervision was a happy event for her, but that didn't mean she wasn't still close to her mother. Quite the opposite, Nan Qiuqiu had a very close relationship with her mother, and her mother's danger and peril made her as anxious and frustrated as could be. Everybody within the Tang sect's inner circle quickly arrived at the conference hall. Yigai pulled Nan Qiuqiu to one side and sat down, while everyone else sat down in their respective seats. He Kaitu, Shu Sansha, Jiang Nan Nan, and Xiao Xiao were all present. Over at the Soul Tool Hall, Xian Ziwen and Gao Delu didn't participate in the Tang sect's policy decisions. They were only immersed in their Soul Tool research, and didn't typically participate in such conferences. Mo Xian was at Shrek Academy's inner courtyard to further his training, as the inner courtyard placed a lot of emphasis and effort on his nurturing and education. Everyone is here. Let's begin the meeting. Bei was sitting in the main seat as he spoke with a grave look on his face. According to the Academy's intel, the Sun Moon Empire have unambiguously and outrageously announced that the sects and academies that participated in the tournament are in their hands. They are still alive for now. Shu Sancha cut in and said, "What are they trying to do? Are they taking the initiative to declare war on the Doluo continent's 3 native empires?" Bei shook his head. They haven't officially declared war, but this means they are even more treacherous and vicious. The first consequence from their announcement is that the Sun Moon Empire is officially antagonizing the sects and academies who have people in the empire's hands. But at the same time, they have also told us unambiguously that those people are in their hands, and this will lead to the second consequence, that we will be afraid to fight against their evil for fear of harming innocents. Bei surveyed everyone around him, and his eyes paused for a moment longer when they came to Nan Chochio. Think about it, guys. Everyone who was able to represent those reputable sects and academies in the tournament were elites of the younger generation. Almost every single one of them will become future cornerstones and mainstays. In addition to them are the teachers of the teams, who had brought them to Radiant City, or even sect leaders who personally came forward, like the Earth Dragon sect. Everyone is now in the hands of the Sun Moon Empire. What does this mean? He Kaitu, or Shu He, was a lot more handsome than before. He lowered his voice and said, "This means that the various sects and academies won't dare to use violence against the Sun Moon Empire lightly. At least, they won't do so before they rescue their compatriots." Bei nodded and continued, "That's the first possibility. The second possibility is that those academies and sects will venture into the Sun Moon Empire to save their compatriots, and they will mire themselves in their enemies' traps if that happens. The Sun Moon Empire will break them down, one by one. At the same time, with this restraint in place, every country will have to consider the opinions of those sects and academies who are powerful enough to affect a nation's high-level fighting strength, if they wish to make a move against the Sun Moon Empire. The Sun Moon Empire can take this opportunity to regain their strength and replenish what they've lost. Their strategy has killed 4 birds with 1 stone, and it is very treacherous and cunning, indeed. Then what should we do? Are we not going to save them?" Nan Chochio couldn't help but feel a little worried and anxious. Bei said, "Calm down, don't be hasty. Of course we have to save them, but we have to plan and scheme before we make a move. Our actions will be counterproductive otherwise, and we will achieve the opposite of our desired result if we try to save them rashly and without prior planning. Don't worry, your mother will not be in danger for the time being. At least, she will be fine until the Sun Moon Empire decides to officially launch an invasion. The Sun Moon Empire's hostages will be valuable to them until they are actually prepared to start a war. This will take at least 1 or 2 years." Nan Chochio settled down a little as she listened to Bei's calm analysis, and nodded pitifully. Bei continued, "Everyone must have noticed that certain entities are not included among the people that I mentioned who are afraid to take action against the Sun Moon Empire for fear of harming innocents. Shrek Academy and the Body Sect. The Body Sect is considered the Heavenly Soul Empire's national defense sect, and they will do something to save the Heavenly Soul Empire Soul Masters who have been captured. Shrek Academy is incumbent and bound to our duty. At the same time, the Tang sect doesn't share the same fears." He Kaitu glanced at Nan Chochio and said, "Eldest senior brother, do you think that the Tang sect participating in high-level conflicts between empires will?" A worried look appeared in his eyes as he spoke. Nan Chochio slammed the table in front of her and leapt to her feet. She glared at Hikaitu and said, "Such a waste that you've grown up to be so tall and big. Are you afraid?" Hikaitu frowned, and Xiao Xiao cut in before Hikaitu could say anything. She leapt to her feet as well and said, "What did you say? Afraid? Do you think we're afraid?" Hikaitu hugged Xiao Xiao at her waist with one arm. He was tall, so he could still do that easily even though he was sitting down. He pulled Xiao Xiao back into her seat, as he turned towards Nan Chochio with a calm look in his eyes. "I hail from the Sun Moon Empire. More accurately put, I come from the Sun Moon Empire's royal family. More than 10 years ago, my father and several hundred of my family members were murdered by the previous Sun Moon Empire's emperor, who has just passed away not too long ago. He Kai-tu recounted his story calmly, as if he were talking about something that was completely unrelated to him, and not a single ripple of emotion appeared on his face. In the beginning, Nan Chocho was a little surprised, but her reaction gradually became one of intense shock. Her pretty face flushed red, and she desperately wanted to hide herself in some hole in the ground. I'm sorry. Nan Chocho was a little arrogant and pampered, but she wasn't an unreasonable girl, and she hurriedly lowered her head and sat back down. He Kai-tu smiled and continued, "It's all right. You're losing your cool because you're too concerned. We will brainstorm and discuss this carefully, because we have to find the best solution and strategy to save your mother. Saving the Earth Dragon sex members will be our topmost priority. I am just worried that the Academy will not let us participate in this operation, so we need to have a detailed plan before we think about taking any action." Bei nodded and said, "That's correct. We need to have a detailed plan before we take any action. The Tang sect is just starting to take shape, and our foundations are still unstable. At this time, we can only assist everyone else in this operation. The Academy will be the main strength, which will venture forward to rescue the hostages. Even if the Academy's operation fails, the Sun Moon Empire cannot vent their anger on anyone. However, the Sun Moon Empire must have already made sufficient preparations, and they are just waiting for us to walk into their trap by ourselves. Therefore, this rescue operation will be extremely difficult, and we must ensure that we are absolutely prepared for anything and everything before we take any action. So Chocho, I need to remind you that you must trust everyone, and you cannot do anything rash by yourself. Rashness and impulsiveness will not resolve any of our problems, and your only choice right now is to trust us. Do you understand?" Nan Chocho nodded lightly. Bei continued, "The Sea God's Pavilion's various elders have already discussed this. In terms of strength, rescuing those hostages under the watchful eyes of the Sun Moon Empire's throngs of soul engineers and the Holy Ghost Church's evil soul masters will be exceptionally challenging. We have sent out scouts to figure out what's happening in the Sun Moon Empire and figure out their situation. At the same time, this isn't the right time for us to launch a rescue operation. The Sun Moon Empire must have already made sufficient preparations if they dared to handle this issue this way, which is just a little short of declaring war. Therefore, we have to wait, and we have to wait until they are a little less vigilant for us to have any chance or opportunity at all." Nan Chocho didn't say anything anymore. She seemed to have learned her lesson from before, and she was a lot calmer and more composed. Yi Gai glanced at Nan Chocho and asked, "How long do we have to wait?" Bei shook his head and said, "I'm not sure. We have to wait for the most opportune moment, and everything depends on the intel from our scouts, and also on the Academy's plans and arrangements. We can no longer make any decisions about a conflict at this level.